Dear friends, once again we have to just move to the topic. We have to start the topic, and we are just dealing with an important issue. The first one important issue is what you know as the past. That is quite complicated, and the past is obviously associated with antiquity. The past have occurred hundreds and thousands years back. Here the historians and archaeologists have to play the role of some detective, and they had to just discover the different intricacies of the past. So here our issue is, and that is the part of your syllabus, sources of study. So there are two sources of study. One is the literary source of study, which I have finished yesterday. Then we have started the archaeological evidence. Archaeological evidence means the material objects which are spread on the upper crust of the earth, and some material objects are even lying beneath the earth, and the discoverers, the historians, the archaeologists had to excavate them. Firstly, explore them, and then comes the turn of excavation. So in previous class, we have made this point clear. In fact, what you know as archaeological evidence, so this evidence takes different forms. The forms are, that is coins, tools, inscriptions, monuments. We have gone through all the objects. Then we have discussed the topic, because in your syllabus they have exclusively used two terms. One term is, that is exploration, another is excavation. What forms and what types of explorations can appear and are the choices before the historians and archaeologists. We have already discussed this aspect yesterday. Now we have to give focus over the term excavation. Excavation means now you have to dig out either from the crust of the earth. You are supposed to dig out either from under the crust of the earth, or you can say you have to excavate the things which are lying beneath the earth. So there are two methods of excavations. My students, as I have told you earlier, in earlier three classes, which are just the demo classes, we could not send you the PDF form of PPT, but now it is your regular class, and from this class onwards, you will be provided the PDF of the PPT as well. But still you have to pay attention to it. Sometime you can take the photograph. I will give you the time for some seconds whenever I will just out of the site, and then you can take the photograph, or you can pause this video and try to find out the specific terminologies mentioned in PPT. So here you find vertical excavation. Vertical excavation means this method helps us to find a stratigraphical distribution and chronology of different cultures. In yesterday's class, I have just made you clear. In fact, one of the popular form of the archaeology is mound. And whenever you are observing the mound, I have told you, in fact, some community stayed at a place for some centuries. They had led their specific life. After 4 to 5 centuries, the culture declined. The people vacated the place and they moved to the nearby region or some other region. So what they left as their remains or debris, so they were just, accumulated at the specific place, taking the form of the mound. But I have told you that the mound can be of different types. The monocultural mound or multicultural mound may be possible after the decline of one culture, the people from other communities or other community could gather at the place. They should have developed a new culture. They should have spent their time for some centuries, and once again they had to vacate the place. So at the same site you will find different cultures flourished from time to time and declined, and they are taking the form of the mound. The size of the mound is decided by the number of cultures and the number of communities which visited this, which just visited their specific place. Here the vertical excavation can be much useful. What is vertical excavation, you can say? In fact, this is the limited excavation. Here you are not supposed to make a wide and, the excavation of the wide areas. Simply the limited excavation or the excavation of in the limited areas would work, and at least you will come to know what are the layers of the cultures and what is their time period. So here archaeologist is using a term stratigraphy. Here you find the term stratigraphical distribution. Stratigraphical distribution means suppose the culture which appeared late, so that will be at the upper level, and the earlier culture will declined, so that will lie beneath this one culture, and once again the old one culture will lie further. So there would be a series of cultures, and stratigraphy means an archaeologist would make a hole and it will just move from culture to culture, and on the basis of carbon dating, uranium dating, whatever methods, he would decide the time period of the different cultures and the objects there. So here my point is this is vertical excavation. So that is important for making discovering the layers of different cultures and their time period. But more important excavation is horizontal excavation. If you are willing to, or archaeologists are willing to have the wider knowledge about the specific community or the culture, then the archaeologist had to move to other method, and they had to move to this horizontal method of excavation. Here you can say the archaeologist is supposed to choose a vast area for excavation, and there he would try to, or they would try to read into details their political, economic, social and cultural life. So wherever the horizontal excavations about the culture or civilization, we come to know a lot. Here I am giving the example. You can find the example of Mehergarh, a Neolithic site, and early Harappan site. So here you find about Mehergarh we are having comprehensive knowledge. Likewise, you can find the site like Harappa, where the excavation digging has done. Later, Mohenjo-daro, it has presented the same place. Likewise, you can say Dholavira and presently Rakhigarhi. Wherever horizontal excavation has been done, we are supposed to have the better knowledge of that society and culture. But my students, there is one important constraint as well. Constraint is that today there is the, you can say, dense population distribution in India, number one. Number two, it is causing environmental factor as well. Number three, it will just affect the process of development as well. Maybe some cultural site is lying in the midst of a town or just very near to the town. So here the excavation could have been made. So there would be a bigger problem of rehabilitation of the population. So that is creating additional problem. So that's why, and apart from that, or last but not the least, you can say this horizontal excavation involves too much resources, too much investment. So that's why in India, in place of horizontal excavation, the vertical excavation has always been preferred. But both are having their own importance. So be clear. So this one point I have to make you clear. And furthermore, now we have to move both types of excavations here in this PPT. I'm just moving here, giving you some place. You can pay attention to it and try to find out the lines. It is, I think, visible for you, and apart from that you will have the PDF, the PPT. Then you find limitations of horizontal excavation. The same thing I have already discussed with you. It is a costly affair. Secondly, it may create problems related to displacement and rehabilitation of a large population. So I have already discussed this aspect with you. So this point should be clear to you. Now the next one issue. Actually, what I have just told you about the sources of a study at this stage, you should not be much perturbed, because you will find here the various question and varied type of questions. It is really challenging from this topic. But be clear, this topic questions could never lie alone is getting associated with this topic alone. Rather, you can say a part of question lies in this topic and another part with some specific other topic like Neolithic period, Harappan civilization, Vedic civilization. So that's why I have told after finishing this topic, you have to move from topic to topic and dealing with every topic. Once again, we are supposed to repeat this aspect or this point. So here you find what are the new dimensions added recently to the analysis of archaeological evidences. This is the new one issues because today a lot of innovations have done in the field of archaeology. So being the student of history, you are supposed to be aware of the latest developments. So that's why I have given this point. So here you can observe these points. The first one, interdisciplinary approach is now being used to analyze the archaeological evidences. Today, if you have to make a study of archaeology, here simply history and archaeology don't work. But apart from that, you are just using the method of botany, geology, the different sorts of environmental studies, chemistry, life science, all the methods from all other subjects and other disciplines are supposed to be applied in this method. So that's why it is having interdisciplinary approach. Next one, paradigms of chemical analysis, biotechnology, other social sciences and environmental sciences, etc. are being utilized in the analysis of evidences. So that is clear. Simply you have to give a look to it. Next one, the survey techniques and scientific processes used in the analysis archaeological objects are known as archaeometry. Up here in the different techniques. Up here you can cite some examples. Suppose in state services or in UPSC examination, you will find some question. I'm just moving here. Please pay attention to all the 3 points once again. And then I'm just coming to the point. In fact, here I have to inform you how did the methods from other disciplines or other subjects are applied in the study of archaeology. The first one is called archaeometry. Archaeometry means the survey of techniques and scientific processes used in the analysis of archaeological objects. But the survey techniques, survey techniques means you are making the measurement of any artifact. It is called archaeometry. Likewise, the chemical analysis can be used to know an approximate age of metal objects and potteries. So here you can say you are using the chemical analysis as well. And last one, the biological fossils are studied under paleontology. Biological fossils, sometime you will find you are just making a study of, or archaeologists are making a study of some, human skulls or the, skeletons of the human body. So it is through the study of a part of the bone, the scholars came to this conclusion that this person has suffered from which of the diseases. So it is on the basis of the study of the bones, the skeletons, now archaeologists discovered about even their dietary habits, their life, their disease, etc. How did ancient humans adapt to their environmental conditions and how did they use their natural resources are studied under environmental archaeology. In today's scenario, in yesterday's class I have made you clear it is a well-known proverb that everything looks yellow to a jaundiced eye. मतलब in Hindi that is called कि सावन के अंधे को हरे हरे दिखाई देता है. So today we are suffering from an acute problem of environmental degradation. So obviously we just try to plant present on the past and try to find out that today if environmental factor is affecting human life so deeply, so what was the scenario 1000 years, 2000 years or 3000 years back. So here environmental studies are also making their contribution to the study of the ancient people or our study of the past. Here I can give you the example. Presently previously the archaeologists were making the excavations and they tried to find out some stone implements. So they were not paying attention to the phenomena. Actually in India, the number of bone implements are having the less number than you find in Europe. Likewise, earlier, recently I'll give you the example. You might have heard the name of a very reputed historians and Yuval Noah Harari. He is now falling in the category of the best selling historians in the world, So Yuval Noah Harari has just given a very important remark about the tools of the ancient people. He told, today we are having a lot of stone tools. So we came to the conclusion, and we have come to the conclusion that the ancient people used stone implements profusely, but we ignored the fact that it is just like the things. If we just try to make an assessment of the character of a youth, we are making an assessment of the character of the youth, simply on the basis of their text message. We are definitely, you can say, observing simply a partial view of the truth. Rather, we are supposed to observe and just read his email account as well. Apart from that, we have to just try to find out his Facebook status as well. Only then you will have the true picture. So today you find the wooden implements could not survive the vagaries of the time. They decomposed in the environment, and you can say that due to the environmental factors, the climatic factor. So we should here imagine that they used bone implements and wooden implements in much larger quantity than they used the stone implements. So in this way, environmental studies definitely added a new dimension to the study of archaeology today. So this is the pointer. Likewise, ethnography is the study of contemporary cultures and communities. It inquires into modern social norms and subsistence patterns of mainly tribal societies. The insights developed from such ethnographic observations are used to interpret the ancient archaeological evidences. My students, even yesterday I have made this point clear. There is a term ethnography or ethno studies, you can say. What is the use of this method? India is a very unique type of country. In today's world, India has carried within its womb the cultures from ancient to contemporary era. You will find in India the tribes which are moving in the forest even today in the naked form. On the other hand, India is carrying the famous Mars mission, you have heard. So you will always find the two types of India. So in India, you will find even today there are such communities which are having resemblance to the communities which had appeared in India 3,000 years back. So now the archaeologists and historians or anthropologists, through making a study of the present ethnic group, their lifestyle, their subsistence pattern, they try to discover how such communities used to lead their life in the past. So in this way, the use of ethnography has added a new dimension to the study of archaeology, Now we have raised the next one issue, what sort of impact has been created by the recent developments in the field of genomics on the study of ancient people. Genomics has definitely a genome technology, so that has further added to the study of archaeology. Today, it has opened a new vista of knowledge, and it has completely altered our perception about the past on several issues. And not simply that, it has also closed the gate of the controversial issues at several fronts simultaneously. So today, genome technology or as DNA footprinting So today it has come into limelight, and it provided a new tool into the hand of archaeologists now. So here you can observe here, DNA footprinting has facilitated the study of human migration from one region to another under the rubric of genomics. The study of mitochondrial DNA, mtDNA and Y chromosome, also known as sex chromosome, have opened the new possibilities. Here my point is, actually whenever the ancient people or the skeletons of ancient people were just being studied, so sometimes the historians and archaeologists are supposed to just discover their lineage, from where they originated, from which region did they move to other region, from where they came, or whether they are the original inhabitants or the indigenous people of the region. So there are the certain important questions which are being settled through genomics. So you find through DNA footprinting. So earlier in a study you can see the methods which have been adopted. The one is mtDNA and another is Y chromosome. So mtDNA and Y chromosome try to prove the paternal and matrilineal lineage respectively. Because you know, normally you can say in the groups of chromosomes there is one empty DNA, and you know there is the empty DNA. It reflected the maternal lineage, and then Y chromosome that just you can say paternal lineage. So maternal and paternal lineage were being reflected through these methods previously, but the methods were not much accurate. It is supposed that normally they used to give informations about the 15 generations. So some archaeologists were having the problem in the study of some skeletons in Northwest, because it was very difficult to make a distinction between the skeletons of the Mughal officers in the Northwest and the, you can say, the ancient migration, or you can say the people who have migrated to Northwest during ancient period, because after 15 generations there was almost a blurred picture. But recently, 1 decade earlier, they developed a new method, and that is known as aDNA or ancient DNA. So ancient DNA has now given a bit more accuracy. So now the you know, archaeologists and experts are depending over the study of ancient DNA. And it is on this basis you can say that presently there is a site that is associated with Harappan civilization. It has remained to be in much controversy. You might have gone through the newspaper and journals. That is the current affair today. In 2019, it has turned to be a bit more controversial when some scholars from Pune, they have just discovered something, and they had made another and disturbing claim about the people of Rakhigarhi. So it was a very normal. But in 2018 also, 2017 also, through DNA footprinting, the historians and archaeologists just came on some conclusion about the people. So here my point is, it is on the basis of aDNA. Likewise, you can say it has always been remained to be a very controversial issue whether Aryans were the indigenous people of India or they came from outside. So on 31st March 1918, a new report was published on the basis of the study of aDNA, and now it is more accurately emphasized by scholars. In fact, what you know as Aryans, so they came from Kazakh steppes, and while crossing Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, and then they are just finally after 2000 BCE or 1500 BCE, they moved towards Northwest India. So now it is believed that Aryans just came from outside. So in this way, DNA footprinting just opened a new potentiality for the study of archaeology. The study of mtDNA enables us to establish the maternal lineage, and the study of Y chromosome enables to identify paternal heritage. I have just mentioned this point. However, the conclusions drawn on the basis of empty DNA and Y chromosomes are not beyond challenges. Means ki here some controversy. But in recent decades, a promising development in the form of aDNA, ancient DNA has taken place in the field of DNA footprinting. So that is the important thing. And until 2009, we had no evidence of aDNA, but today we have nearly 400 samples of aDNA. I have consciously given you some technical idea because recently this idea is, you can say, always in news. Sometime in newspapers you will find, in journals you will find, in front line sometime you can go through the article, and then there you feel a bit perturbed because it is a very technical thing. That's why I have mentioned here aDNA. aDNA means ancient DNA, and it has added recent dimension to the study of DNA footprinting. In nearly 400 samples of aDNA today. In the light of DNA footprinting, following aspects are being specifically focused on. I have already discussed this aspect with you. The advent of Aryans in the Indian subcontinent or the origin of Aryans indigenously versus foreign debate. Next one, on the basis of evidences from Rakhigari, the relation between Harappans and Aryans. While making a study from Rakhigari, we have to about the Harappans and Aryans, what relations existed there. So this also controversial issue, but I will discuss this aspect once again whenever I will teach you about the relationship between the Harappans as well as the Vedic people. I will discuss this aspect. Of significance of archaeological evidences. Now we have to come to this point. What is the significance? Or what are the significance about that? So I am here giving you some place, please pay attention to it. And here I have given 3 points, then I will discuss further. Here you find that archaeological evidences by nature are more objective, therefore the scope for subjective interpretation is less. Yesterday, I have already discussed with you about the significance of literary evidence. What have you realized? In case of literary evidence, you cannot separate the subjective ideas or prejudices of the authors. Prejudices of an author is always reflected in a text. But in case of archaeological evidence, you will come to realize that this archaeological evidence is more objective in nature. Here there is less scope for personal prejudices as you find in the matter of text. If you are getting confused, once again I am just giving you and making you recall the things. I have told you yesterday, suppose an author is a Buddhist. So whenever he is compiling a text, so definitely he was being inspired by Buddhist ideals. So in order to promote the ideals, he will definitely distort the fact. Here I am giving you some interesting information. In a Buddhist text you find, for example, in Sri Lanka, Deepavamsa and Mahavamsa you might have heard about. So definitely these are the epics associated with Buddhism, and they were compiled in Sri Lanka. So there, in order to make publicity of Buddhism, for example, you in the newspaper sometime you will find a slimming center is giving the publicity. You will find there the 2 figures of the single one man. One is too much bulky and obese. Another is the slim and smart. And you will find, observe, with attention. This is the same man just 1 year back. But now after joining my slimming center, he has trimmed his obesity. So in this way, they are just making publicity of their own slimming center. Likewise, even Buddhist scholars are making the same publicity. Ashoka was called Chandashoka. Chandashoka means Ashoka was projected, he was having 100 brothers, but he, after killing 99 brothers, even today, according to the mythology, not history, his 99 brothers were just killed and they were thrown into, their dead body were thrown into, in Patna even today you will find there is some Agam Kuan, according to the hearsay. So what is the reason behind presenting Ashoka such a cruel personality or cruel person, or what is the reason behind that? Chandashoka. The reason being, the Buddhist scholar tried to prove that it was due to the enabling impact of Buddhism. It was the noble impact of Buddhism. Ashoka could turn himself into the form of Dharmashoka. Here what do you find? The fact has been tempered with the objective of promotion of Buddhist ideals. So this is the weakness of a literary text. You will not find such a weakness in archaeological object. So this is the significance, first one. Second one, unlike literature, this cannot be altered by subsequent authors. In literature you will find a study I have discussed with you, there is the big challenge of interpolation. Some part was compiled earlier, some part was compiled very late. So there is the problem of interpolation. Here you will not find such an interpolation. Here the gate is open. And next one, in comparison of literature, the archaeological evidences are more authentic. More authentic means they can be tempered less. In literature, more prejudices, more interpolation, even the place of its compilation, the name of the author, the condition, in which condition it was compiled, so that is not clear. So due to this fact, you can say you find here a big challenge. Now, above all, for the study of a much larger portion of Indian history, we are mainly dependent on archaeological sources because written traditions started much later. I am just asking you, please calculate the time. You started to make a study of the ancient people from Paleolithic period. And what is the time period of Paleolithic period? Just calculate, possibly 4 to 5 lakhs years back. And then from 10,000 BCE and 10,000 years back, there started Mesolithic period. And 6,000 years back, Neolithic period. And then 3500 BCE, 3500 years back or BCE, started Chalcolithic period. Harappan civilization 2600 BCE, and then in up to 1900 BCE, and what you know as late Harappan culture and other Chalcolithic culture. So from 1900 BCE to 1100 BCE. So my point is that you are just rich. And what you know as historical period. So this historical period started from 6th century BC. So before 6th century BC and 2 lakhs of years back, we are simply depend on archaeological evidence as the source of study. And simply 600 from 600 BC and presently we are in 2100 in 21st century. So 2100 years plus 600 years, 27 years, 100 years. So my students, we are depending on literary evidence, and even if we are going to make calculation of the Vedic literature, although there is a question of authenticity because Vedic Aryans were not owning any specific script and they carried their literature in through oral tradition. So there is lack of authenticity, but still we are going to calculate the 600 or the 1500 from 1500 BCE to 1500 and plus 2100. How many years? We can very well calculate total. So you know simply for the study of nearly 3600 years, or you can say 4000 years, we are depending on literary evidence, and from lakhs of the years, you know, is simply archaeological evidence. So more than 99% of the history is being studied on the basis of archaeological evidence, and even much less than 1% through literary evidence. So this is the significance of archaeological evidence, you can say, because literature was not available for the study of this period. And then despite the availability of literary evidences, the archaeological evidences are more suitable for extracting reliable information on some specific issues. Example, the transition of a rural economy into an urban economy. Here my point is, even literary evidence is available today. But on the basis of literary evidence, we cannot have the knowledge of certain development. For example, if you have to make a study of a transition from a rural economy to urban economy at the time of second urbanization in Middle Gangetic Basin, the first urbanization in Indian subcontinent was Harappan urbanization, and from 6th century BC onwards, that is characterized as the second urbanization. So if you have to make a study of a phase of transition from agrarian economy to urban economy at the time of the second urbanization, so then you will come to realize there literary evidence is not giving us the proper information. Rather, we have to depend over the archaeological evidence. So here also you can say archaeological evidence is having its own significance. So these are the 3 important points, and then we are just moving further. Limitations of archaeological evidence. It is not, we cannot say that archaeological evidences are completely innocent. Rather, we can say even archaeological evidences are having their own limitations. We cannot ignore its limitations. So you have to keep this phenomena in my mind. Here you can say limitations of archaeological evidences means even though the archaeological sources are more objective in nature, the conclusions drawn on the basis of these evidences are not fully objective. I am giving the concrete example. Suppose you will just raise the issue that archaeological evidence is much more reliable, there is much more authenticity, there is not the scope for subjectivity. So I will just do a counter question to you. For example, you are making a study of Harappan civilization presently solely on archaeological evidence. There are so many historians, Gordon Child, Mortimer Wheeler, Fair Service. The question is, why do you find the difference in the opinion of historians or scholars on the issue of the origin and the decline of Harappan civilization, in spite of the fact that all historians are having access to the same source material? Then why the differences are cropping up in their views? What is the reason behind that? The reason being, although the archaeological evidence could have been objective in nature, but the conclusion which are being taken by historians on that basis, so that is always subjective. So here E.H. Carr has, in What is History, has made this point clear. What as archaeological evidence or historical source, so they are just lying in abundance. But historians are always selecting the objects as the evidence which suited to their own perception. So Gordon Child chose one object, the Fair Service another object, and all the objects are lying there. So it means, although the material objects can be objective in nature, but the conclusions which are being taken by historians, so they are always subjective. So we cannot say that it was completely objective. Next one, there is a scope for later interferences in archaeological evidences as well. Example, Ashokan pillars which were earlier located in Topra and Meerut were relocated at Delhi by Firoz Shah Tughlaq. And third one point is that most of the royal inscriptions had been written in form of eulogies, therefore they largely reflect royal viewpoint only. Here I have to inform you, I have told you earlier, whenever we have to discuss about the significance of archaeological evidence, in praise of archaeological evidence we have given some point. Like literature, we will find less scope for human intervention in archaeological objects. But even they are not completely safe. Take the example of Ashokan inscriptions. Ashokan inscriptions which were compiled by Ashoka, which were built by Ashoka, so we are almost depending on Ashokan inscriptions as an authentic source for the study of Maurya period. But the problem is that some of his inscriptions or pillars or other inscriptions were just uprooted from their original place and they were planted elsewhere. Here we can cite the example कि two pillar edicts of Ashoka, मतलब two 7 pillar edicts of Ashoka, one was lying at Meerut and another at Topra. So they were just carried by Firoz Shah Tughlaq and planted at Delhi. So there was the human tampering, human intervention, you can say. Likewise, you can say that Cunningham, he was a scholar, a British scholar. So he, in Ashokan inscription, one was Barat. So it was carried by Cunningham and it has been placed in Calcutta Museum today. So apart from that, even Fahian and Huensang have mentioned about certain pillars or certain Ashokan inscriptions and even the Buddha statue, which have not so far been discovered. So on that basis, you can say that scholars have come to the conclusion that some inscriptions and some of material objects have been carried by the people, scholars, or even the kings of the latter generations from one place to another place. Then you can do me the counter question. What is the matter? Suppose you can say the original Ashokan inscription was lying at Kaushambi. Jahangir had just, you can say, carried it to Allahabad. So you will just ask me the question and you will just do the counter question. What is the problem then? Because we are informed that it was originally planted at Kaushambi and later it was taken away to Allahabad. It is true, but my student, problem is that about 2 and 3 or 4 inscriptions, we already came to know what was their original place and how were they tempered. But maybe even some other inscriptions might have been intervened and they were tempered by the human initiative, but we are not having the information. And suppose some inscription has been planted at Kaushambi, and if you are not having the information and you find it the Allahabad, Ashoka normally through inscriptions he addressed to his officers. So the officers of Kaushambi have been addressed by Ashoka, and we will just come to assume that no, the officers of Allahabad have been addressed by Ashoka, so definitely we will have the distorted picture of history. So this is the point here, I have to highlight the point. And the last one, the point number 3, you might have observed, I have given you the chance to observe it, please. You might have observed here, the third one point, most of the royal inscriptions had been written in form of eulogies, therefore they largely reflected royal viewpoint only. Suppose inscriptions were just written in the form of eulogies, they were doing the undue praise to the particular king. Even a smaller king had just, you can say, planted some inscription, and through the initiative of their court scholars, some inscription has been inscribed in their praise, and the praise is undue, and even a lesser king is making the claim like as if they are the Chakravarti rulers. Here you find Nagvar the first. He is supposed to be the founder of Pratihara dynasty. At least during his period, the Pratihara state could not have been taken the form of an empire. But he got some success against Islamic invaders, Arabian invaders, you can say, who were just trying to penetrate the region of India at that time. So after repulsing the attack of Islamic soldiers, then he developed a sense of complacency, and in order to give publicity of his success, he just planted an inscription at Gwalior, and in this Gwalior inscription he made a very hyperbolic claim. He compared himself with God Narayana, who appeared on the earth to rescue the earth. Can you imagine? And in the Boer incarnation, because you might have heard about the story of Lord Vishnu, in Boer incarnation, Vishnu has once rescued the earth. So even Nagvar the first is making such a big claim. And you can very well imagine how can you depend over the inscriptions as the sources of study. You will cite the example of Samudragupta, the Allahabad inscription. So Samudragupta, what has he done? He compared himself with 4 gods. And the king of Sri Lanka, as a sovereign state, Sri Lanka was a sovereign state, and the king of Sri Lanka simply requested him, please donate 5 villages to Nalanda University. Because the king of Sri Lanka was having concern with Buddhism, was having concern with Buddhism, so he was just seeking some favor from him in the favor of Indian Buddhist. And here his court scholar Harishen has made the claim that the king of Sri Lanka was just taxpayer to Samudragupta. It is definitely the distortion of the fact. So my point is, here you have to be careful while using the inscriptions, Then more limitations you find. In the point number 4 and 5, 2 more. One is, there is also a body of opinion that states that most of the objects recovered as archaeological evidences were deliberately discarded by the ancient people as they would have melted and used the important metals. Here I can cite the example of a very reputed historian, Sirin Ratnagar. She has just, added a new dimension to the study of the limitations of archaeological evidence. She has told, and she has expressed her view, that actually what you are just taking and what we are giving too much weightage, and the historians and scholars are just giving too much primacy to the archaeological sources, and on that basis they try to reconstruct a culture or a civilization. But the basic problem is that whatever archaeological objects we find either lying on the earth or even after excavation, so normally these objects are those objects which had been discarded by ancient people. They mean that suppose if the objects are precious like metal, copper, bronze, or gold, silver, so they melted them and used them. And what are the less valuable objects, so they were thrown out. And we are going to be happy and try to reconstruct their life simply on the basis of the thrown out objects. So in this way, how can you find the true picture of a community? So this view has been given by Sirin Ratnagar. And this is also carrying some weight, you can observe. And point number 5 you find, here the next one, the increasing population density and rapidly expanding urbanization has made excavation of primary sites a major challenge. The associated environmental challenges have further complicated the problem. I have already discussed this aspect with you. There is the population density. Sometimes even archaeological site could just you can say could appear just beneath and just beside the town, and even sometime even the midst of the town. Then how can you manage? And even if it is outside of the town, but there is a dense population there, so there would be a major question of the rehabilitation of a large number of population. How can the government afford that? So this is the basic problem while using the archaeological evidence and original excavation. Way out. Now you can ask me the question, very interesting question. Sir, you have already talked about literary evidences, although you have focused about some significance, but you have called a lot and you have spoken a lot about the limitations. Likewise, you have talked about archaeological evidence and you have definitely highlighted some significance, but you have focused over too many limitations. Then what should I do? So that is the way out, our concluding point. What is the concluding point? Archaeology, linguistics, philology. Philology means what you know as, and literature, and recently developed DNA footprinting should all complement each other. Means different forms of sources of study. Means whatever conclusions are being given by linguistics, philology or literature, so the views given by them should be just corroborated by the informations given by other source. It is through comparative study of the information from different sources you can try to deduce the truth. So this should be the better method, you can say. Otherwise, we depend on one and two sources, so the things could always be scandalized. You can very well compare with the present situation. If you have to make a study of the present era, the contemporary India, the policy of the government, or the important economic and social issues. So here you find the conflicting view among different scholars. And what about that period which had occurred 5,000, 6,000 and 3,000 years back? So there we are not having any eyewitness. So only way out is you have to take informations from different sources and corroborate the informations through each other. So that is the better way. So my students, so in this way you have to take the stand. So here I have given you the general idea of the sources of study. So this issue has been completed, and what I have told you earlier, but sources of study still we are not going to finish. But every topic, just come to and return to my first one lecture. There I have given you some formula. How would you make a study of history? You have to divide history in different segments, in 7 parts you can say. In the first part, prehistory and proto-history. And second part, what is this? So that is, starting from Vedic period up to early medieval age. So going through all the periods, we have to give focus over the sources of study, particularly in the part first and part second. So sources of study would be added with every chapter, and whenever you will go through the question bank, you will find a lot of questions, and these questions are not independently on the sources of study, rather the questions are just linked to a particular topic. So we have to be careful while making a study of the topic, how the sources or the part of the sources can be utilized there. Here because I have told you on every chapter, because the time will come, you yourself will be given the assignment for question writing. But earlier than that, I am supposed to make you develop the expertise in question writing. So I can place here certain examples of question writing. Pay attention to it. Oh, sorry. Now suppose you will find a question. Where literature is having silence archaeology speaks. Archaeology speaks. In the light of the statement, underline the significance of the study of archaeological evidence sorry, just one minute. The statement underlining the significance of the study of not a study of archaeological evidence, the importance of, better to write importance of the significance of archaeological evidence in the study of ancient history of India, just simply ancient India. This question is simply appears to be a bit misleading for you, but question is so simple. Simply just, you have to think over the topic which we have just gone through. Here the question is where literature is silent or literature is having silence, archaeology speaks. Underline the significance of archaeological evidence in the study of ancient India in the light of the above statement. Means very simple question. Here the question setter has made this point clear you have to assume the statement. You are not supposed to question the statement. There can be another question, what I just told you earlier, once again repeating. The questions can be of two types. One is hypothetical in nature, another is argumentative. In hypothetical question, what hypothesis has been presented by the question setter, you are simply supposed to prove the hypothesis. But what you know as argumentative question, here you have to make up further strides because you have to take the stand on the question and then you have to make your stand clear whether you agree with the statement or disagree with the statement, and then after giving the thesis, you are supposed to prove your thesis. So there you have to do the dual works. Here you have to simply prove the hypothesis. Here no much scope because they have already given if literature is having silence, then archaeology speaks. In the light of the above statement, you have to underline the significance of the archaeological evidence in the study of ancient history. So the very simple, very lucid question is no problem at all. So you simply in this type of question, what can you do? In this type of question, you can simply give an introduction. In course of the study of ancient history of India, we are supposed to move across the time period which expanded in lakhs of years, years. You have just given, actually, whenever you are giving the introduction, even your introduction is supposed to be meaningful. That should be relevant. Here you have just created the background. We have to cross in course of making a study of the ancient part of history, we are supposed to cross the lakhs of years. So definitely then next one point we are just going to give first for the most part of this time period we depend on archaeological evidence, and only a very small fraction of the time you can have the knowledge from literary evidence. So this is your normal stand, but now here you can form a sentence, but here I am not just trying to give a particular mold. You have to form the line in this way. Here you are having the complete autonomy to whatever lines you form. Simply ideas should be guided. Here make this point clear, whatever sentence you choose. So next one sentence you can choose in this manner. For most of the part, for the knowledge of, for the knowledge of most of the part of history, we depend on archaeological evidence and literary evidence simply enlightens us about a very small fraction of the period. A small fraction of the period. So you have just done a very well beginning. This is your thesis line. Thesis line means you have taken the stand. You have enlightened the examiner. What your stand? Your stand is through archaeological evidence we come to know about the most of the part of history, and what you know as literary evidence, so that deals with a very small fraction, or you can say very small fraction, and simply a fraction of history, you can say. Now thesis is clear. You have to simply prove the thesis. And what is the method for proving the thesis? Here I am making clear. The method is, here the method is, with a change of paragraph, you will change the paragraph, and then if you like, you can give the points or you can make the smaller paragraph. Up here you will give the example of prehistory. Prehistory means make this point clear for the study of study of Paleolithic and Mesolithic period. You are totally depends over this archaeological evidence. Then you come to proto-history. In proto-history, you can count Neolithic, Chalcolithic and Harappan civilization. Leave Vedic civilization, I think. Up here you will give the information for the study of Neolithic and Chalcolithic. You totally depend over this archaeological evidence, and even for the study of Harappan civilization, we are depending over archaeological evidence as Harappan script has not so far been deciphered. So you have just make this point clear. Then as the third one you will find it is I have made the point clear, historical phase. And in historical phase, then you have to, whenever you will go through the different topics, such questions you will solve automatically. But simply you have to go through the topic, and once you have to condition your mind for the answer. So then at the historical phase you have to move. In historical phase you will just make them familiar with the history from 6th century BC onwards. And then make the clear that the first script which has come to light in India, that is Brahmi script, and then we are just moving to literary evidence as well. Suppose in course of writing all these things, the size of the question is always within 200 words. More than that, you are not having the scope. And suppose if you are having the scope, if 1 and 2 lines, so even you can mention right from the time whenever we just going through and you are just having the access to literary evidence, but even then for the certain specific informations we are still depend on archaeological evidence, and we will make this point clear about the transition from a rural to urban society. Literature does not give us the complete information, and here also archaeology proves useful, but it depends upon space and time, how much you are having, and then you will simply give a conclusion, your question would be over. So in this way, gradually you just move toward the question writing you will be familiar with. Now I am forming another question, and here question is, inscription as the source material for the study of ancient India, and the source for the study of ancient India, inscriptions can prove very reliable source material. Very reliable source material, critically examine. You have already gone through the source of studies. You find there the archaeological evidences are the important sources, but simultaneously you have realized that even archaeological evidence is having its own limitations, and particularly inscriptions. Now this is the question, my students. Whenever you will go through the different topics and you will be slightly more enlightened, you can do the better justice to the question. Because the question writing, you are just writing the question after finishing this topic. So definitely in your writing, such originality is not to be manifested, but you will just move from this topic to part first and part second. So up to this period, you will go across so many topics. So obviously, whenever you will just write the answer of the same question, so your writing would appear to be slightly more mature. It is very natural. just recall, whenever I have just taught you this one, Romila Thapar, the view of Romila Thapar, there you may recall about it. Question of 2018, I have discussed with you after finishing this literary evidences. Question 2018, Itihas Purana. Just try to recall. And if you are just forgetting, just move to the second one lecture. You will find there in the second one lecture I have discussed this aspect. You may recall one thing, Romila Thapar has informed that gradually when a linear society just was converted into a state society, so obviously you can say that the embedded and externalized, two types of history she has mentioned. As the linear society is moving to the state society, so obviously you can say that the embedded history was taking the form of externalized history. She believes. So here the point is, whenever you have to write this question, so there is the first one issue is what introduction to be drawn. And firstly, go through the question and try to underline the keywords. So as the source material for the study, there the source material, that is the one keywords, inscriptions is the second one keywords, and reliable source the third keywords, and the fourth critically examine. Whenever you will find the term critically examine, so here you are supposed to be a bit more careful, because in critically examine you have to make an assessment of pros and cons both. And after making assessment of pros and cons, then you are supposed to make some stand. Here you can make a pros and cons means ki you will firstly talk about a lot of benefits of inscriptions. And then you will even talk about the limitations of the inscriptions, and then you will finally give the conclusion. So just you can move in this manner. As source material, inscription as the source material for the study of ancient history of India, inscriptions represented a better evolution as it gives comparatively more clear picture of the truth, of the fact, of the events, whatever you like. But still we need some caution. Some caution means shavdhani. Some caution. We need some caution while using inscriptions. using inscriptions. Now, actually, I have just told you that you are having the two different types of inscriptions, the royal inscriptions and the private inscriptions. But whenever you are using the term inscriptions, so our focus is just falling largely on the royal inscriptions because they are more important. And as you are lacking in place because you have to write the answer in 200 words, so better to switch over to royal inscriptions while giving the basic informations. Although inscriptions appear in two forms i.e. royal inscriptions and private inscriptions but definitely royal inscriptions drew the attention of scholars in better way. Scholars in better way. Now you have just started the question. Now you are supposed to mention about certain inscriptions. Actually, you will just give the whole writing, so that will be too much time taking for you people as well. So up from here you can take the guideline, you can move. Just mention about Ashokan inscriptions, simply in the very limited words. Then Junagadh inscription of Rudra Daman, Hathi Gumpa inscription of Kharvel. I have already given you the information in my PDF in your previous class. Hathi Gumpa inscription of I will send you the PDF as well from this class onwards, because the earlier 3 classes they were the demo classes, so that's why I have not given to you the PDF or PPT. Apart from that, I'll just give you the written material that is in documented form, in the physical form through post. So there you will find all these things. So you just mention about 3 to 4 inscriptions and you will make this point clear. These inscriptions are giving the more authentic picture of the contemporary history or their contemporary time. So that's why when Romila Thapar classified the inscriptions under externalized history, you will make this point clear. But after that, you will change the paragraph. Keep in your mind 200 words simply. the size of the question, and you will just move in another direction. But while using the inscriptions, we have to be careful because they are eulogistic in nature. They are giving the undue praise of the kings. And if you will have the space, you can cite some example. If not, so then leave. And apart from that, these inscriptions might have been uprooted from their original places, as you find in case of Ashoka or Ashoka inscriptions. And after that, give the concluding line, and the concluding line would be that's why whatever informations have been given by the inscriptions, so that should be corroborated by other contemporary sources as well. Then your answer would be over. Time to time, I'll just give you the model of the answers in written form as well, so that you will, and then I will give you some task as well. Now, our next issue would be, my student, what the foreign travelers who traveled India, how idea did they form about India, what perception they developed about India, and how did they compile their perceptions in the form of the text, and how these texts are useful for us in the study of ancient history. So in the next one class, thank you very much.